You're willing to risk everything, and you will lose everything. Most things, anyway, that are important to you, you will lose in time. And it takes decades for sex addiction to progress to the point where you start losing everything. Because ultimately, like any addiction, alcohol and drugs, it can be very manageable for a while. You can still build your career, get married, and sustain somewhat of a relationship in spite of perhaps your little affairs, your little flings, your pornography, some of the secrets you might have, and you have a little shame about it. It can be manageable for a while. But like all addictions, sex addiction is progressive. Hey guys, my name is Rob Lopicola, behavioral health and sex addiction recovery coach, and I am free from the horrific grip of sex addiction, meth addiction, and alcohol addiction for many, many years. And today I help men who are sex addicted and perhaps multi-addicted with substance abuse as well, such as alcohol and methamphetamine. And most sex addicts that are battling with their sex addiction find themselves in compulsive sexual behaviors for many, many years, and they get to the point where they feel hopeless and desperate and seemingly unable to stop their sexual behaviors in spite of self-promises, promises to a significant other or other people, and also in spite of perhaps losing jobs or losing relationships. You continue down the road of compulsive sexual behavior, and you have a lot of shame and guilt and regret and self-loathing because of those compulsive sexual behaviors. So if this is you, please subscribe to my channel. I post a new video every Tuesday with strategies and techniques that you can learn, apply, practice, and master to help you eventually experience healthy sexual expression with confidence, free from the shame and the guilt, the regret, and the isolation of it. And that's ultimately what you want in life. You want to enjoy sex. Sex is a healthy experience. Sex can be very pleasurable, but for the sex addict, it becomes compulsive and destructive. And it's interesting, in sex addiction, there are three main consequences or main attributes, if you will, of your sex addiction. And the first attribute, if you truly are a sex addicted man, is you are willing to put everything at risk for your sexually compulsive behaviors. Your marriage, your relationships, your career, your financial stability, your reputation in the community, your social standing, and perhaps your freedom. And your confidence is on the line, your self-esteem, following through and becoming the man of your dreams and fulfilling all of your potential, you're putting at risk. And it's amazing in sex addiction that you are willing to do that. And putting everything at risk eventually will lead to losing everything. Yes, you will eventually, now if you're truly sex addicted, you will eventually lose your marriage or your relationships. You'll lose your jobs. You'll be completely erratic in life, unpredictable and unreliable. Your self-esteem and confidence down the toilet, gone. You're flushing it every single time you act out in your compulsive sexual behaviors. You will eventually lose everything, and that's the second attribute to your sex addiction. You're willing to risk everything, and you will lose everything. Most things, anyway, that are important to you, you will lose in time. And it takes decades for sex addiction to progress to the point where you start losing everything. Because ultimately, like any addiction, alcohol and drugs, it can be very manageable for a while. You can still build your career, get married, and sustain somewhat of a relationship in spite of perhaps your little affairs, your little flings, your pornography, some of the secrets you might have, and you have a little shame about it. It can be manageable for a while. But like all addictions, sex addiction is progressive. You're putting everything at risk, and then eventually you lose everything. And eventually you'll wind up in a hopeless state of mind and body. Desperate, hopeless. Yes, that's the third attribute of your sex addiction. Sex addiction, just like drug addiction and alcohol addiction, is progressive and potentially fatal. Well, you may ask, how can my sex addiction be fatal? Sex addiction leads, ultimately, you put everything at risk, you lose everything, and then you become hopeless and desperate. And hopelessness is what leads to suicidal ideation. 17% of sex addicts attempt suicide, and nearly 70% think about suicide, truly think about ending their own life. So hopeless. And that's how your sex addiction can progress to become fatal, just like drug addiction and alcohol addiction. So in your sex addiction, in your compulsive sexual behaviors, you are willing to put everything at risk. Then you will experience losing everything. And now this may take decades to get to the point of losing everything, where you become hopeless and desperate, and then perhaps have suicidal ideation, suicidal thoughts, where you are completely insecure and self-loathing, and you have no confidence, you're not fulfilling your potential, you don't see a way out, you've promised yourself dozens or hundreds of times that you'll stop the behavior, and again, you're right back to it, and you're at a loss. You have no idea. You can't even comprehend how you just can't stop it. You probably are so baffled that you know at this point you've lost everything. You're hopeless. You're so confused that how are you not stopping these behaviors? You ever say that to yourself? I just can't believe I can't stop. The urge, the craving is so powerful. I feel like I just have to do it. I feel compelled to act on those urges and cravings. They become so strong. And I don't know what to do. What do I do when those urges and cravings get so strong? I don't want to do this anymore. Do you ever say that to yourself? I don't want to live like this anymore. I don't want to do it anymore. But you keep doing it. And it's interesting because there's really, let me see how I can word this. There's one defining attribute to your sex addiction that I believe, from my experience, my knowledge, my expertise, there's one defining attribute. And it's, well, what are you running from? You're running from yourself. And I want you to understand this. This is the core of your sex addiction. You're running from yourself. Well, what is it? You're running from childhood trauma. You're running from loneliness. You're running from fear. You're running from the pain you have deep inside of you. There's a lot of pain deep down inside. And you're running from that. So you're running from yourself into the arms of intense pleasure. Well, what's that? Dopamine. Yes, your brain releases massive amounts of dopamine when you're in compulsive sexual behavior, when you're in your addiction. Your brain has become a drug manufacturing machine, and it's releasing massive amounts of dopamine. So in essence, you're addicted to dopamine. You're addicted to the drug. Your brain is producing and releasing this chemical into your body. Now, you don't know that. I'm telling you now that that's what's going on, but you don't know it. And also, the prefrontal cortex, the front part of the brain that controls impulses, impulse control. Well, in addiction, that prefrontal cortex where impulse control is weakens and dies. You don't have the impulse control anymore. You think about it, you do it. You lack that impulse control. Now, in sobriety, when you change and transform how you think and how you behave, and you practice a whole new design for living, a whole new design for sexual expression, well, then your prefrontal cortex will heal and you'll regain impulse control in time. And in time, you'll balance out your dopamine system. But what's happening is the defining attribute around your sex addiction is you're running from yourself, pain, into the arms of intense pleasure, dopamine. So really, we need to really understand, what am I running from? What are you running from? And I have a question for you, and I want you to think about this. When those urges and cravings come, what would happen if you didn't act out in your sexually compulsive behaviors? You probably would feel anxious and stressed. Your mind will be traveling 1,000,000 miles a second. You could even feel like you're going to die. You're going to die if you don't act out. I don't know if it's that intense for you, but it's gotten that intense for me back in my compulsive, sexually addictive days. If I didn't act out, I felt like I was going to miss out on something so much, miss out on an opportunity that was going to be the solution to me, that if I didn't do it, I would die. I mean, that's kind of how intense it felt for me. Can you relate? Does it feel so intense, the urge and craving, that if you don't act out, you feel like you're going to die? Can you relate to that? See, but what's happening is you're running from yourself, right? You're running from your pain. The pain's coming up, and it comes up at certain times. It may come up when you're hungry or angry or tired or lonely or stressed or anxious. Maybe if you've been rejected by somebody, or you got in trouble at work, or somebody at the supermarket talked down to you, or somebody stuck their finger at you on the road driving on 95, whatever. So something may make you feel uncomfortable, and then it comes up, the pain comes up, and it seems or feels like urges and cravings to act out, because you want to feel good. You want to run from yourself, run from the pain, but it feels like urges and cravings, and you want to run into the arms of intense pleasure, dopamine. Why? Dopamine is the feel-good neurotransmitter. You're going to feel good, and you believe, to feel good, I need to act out. I need to do that particular behavior. Whatever the behaviors are that you find yourself addicted to, whether it's glory holes, Grindr, Tinder, Bumble, going online, hunting for somebody, going to a sex club, going to a sex store, going to a glory hole, whatever. You feel as though you need that to feel good. And you believe it. You believe it. You believe if you do that, you're going to feel good. You're going to be relieved. Now you'll be able to sleep and relax. You satisfied the urge, the craving, that intense desire. Now you can take a shower and get a good night's sleep. But it's an illusion. It didn't really make you feel good, because you know what? When you go to bed, you're all alone. Or you're lying and deceiving your partner you're in bed with, and you feel dirty. You feel shame deep down inside. You don't feel good about yourself. You're self-loathing. You're walking around with secrets. You're looking over your shoulder, hoping that no one will find out, especially your partner or anybody, your boss, coworkers, friends, won't find out what you did. So is it really making you feel good? It's an illusion. It's a lie that your brain has told you is true, and you believe it, but you really feel like crap. So I want you to understand the 3 attributes of your sex addiction is you're putting everything at risk. In time, enough time, you'll lose everything, or most things, or a lot of things. Then it could be fatal, because you're going to become so hopeless, so desperate, you might think of suicide. If you don't think of suicide, you're going to live like the Walking Dead, wearing masks and fake, and really not being an authentic human being, and truly enjoying life and laughing from your gut. You're going to sacrifice that. And you have to understand the defining attribute around your sex addiction is you are running from yourself, the pain, into the arms of intense pleasure, dopamine. But you're running into the arms of death. You're running into the arms of shame and guilt and regret and self-loathing and inferiority. You're running into the arms of bankruptcy, spiritually, emotionally, and financially. You're running to the grave, but you think you're running to feel good because the urge is so strong. When the urge is just your stuff coming up. And I want to help you. I want to help you change and transform your life because you can. If I did it, believe me, I was the bottom of the barrel of sex addiction and meth addiction and alcohol addiction. I'm many, many years now free. And I want to help you, and that's what I do today. So I'm going to give you a 30-minute free 10-step strategy session. I'll have the link below. Or you can go right to my website, sexaddictionrelief.com. I have a free 30-minute 10-step strategy session to begin breaking the cycle of sex addiction out of your life. And from there, right after you watch the video, for 30 minutes, so I want you to take your time, take notes, learn something. You need knowledge, but then you need to apply that knowledge, practice, and master those skills so you can change your life and experience a life of healthy sexual expression. That's the ultimate goal. Healthy sexual expression with confidence, free from the shame, guilt, and isolation of it. After you watch the video, set up a 45-minute free, complimentary strategy call with me. And we're going to talk about your sex addiction and your pattern. And I want to take a look at some of your core beliefs, at least one of them. Hopefully, we can get into one of your core beliefs and begin to change you so you can transform your life and be a better man, the man you want to be. And remember, subscribe to my channel. I post a new video every Tuesday to help you change your life and fulfill your dreams so you can be everything you were created to be. Take care, and thanks for being here.